Hello there, race fans, and welcome to round 8 of Season 7 of the Attrition Sim Race Campus Oval Series. Tonight we are here at the virtual USA International Speedway here on the iRacing.com platform. And of course I specify it's virtual because, along with this being a racing sim, this track unfortunately does not exist anymore in real life. The USA International Speedway was opened in 1995 and it was closed in 2008 and has since been demolished, so this track had a pretty short 13-year long lifespan, and thankfully it is preserved here on the iRacing.com platform. But that said, we have 101 laps up for grabs here tonight on what is the largest track of the season, coming in at 0.75 miles or 1.2 kilometers in length. And after the very tense race we had back at the short Oxford Plains Speedway last week, this will definitely be a very exciting race to see drivers bring out what is effectively a different skill set to conquer this significantly larger track. That said, if you want to check out the ASRC Oval Series or any of their other series, you can look them up at ASRC Racing on Twitter or www.asrcracing.com. Anyone that is a clean and respectful driver is welcome to join any of their series at any point of the season. Currently, they do a multi-class road series that is MX-5s and TCR cars every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern, followed by the Oval Series, which we are doing now at 9 p.m. Eastern, which is 101 lap late model races currently. There is a chance we'll switch to a new car next season, so we will have to see, but the Oval Series always has been and always will be 101 lap races. And then on Tuesday nights, they do dirt races with the pro late models at 9 p.m. Eastern. So if any of those sound interesting to you, be sure to go to www.asrcracing.com and look into joining the series. That said, though, we are just about to wrap up qualifying here. It looks like we have 10 drivers that set a time, and it looks like 13 drivers registered. We might only have 12 though. We will have to see if the 13th one makes the grid or not. But speaking of gridding, let's go ahead and take a look at our starting lineup presented by Sim Racer Hub and the Majors Garage. Starting on the pole here tonight, driving the number 21 machine, is David Sluiter. To his outside in the 09, a very interesting sight to see, Mr. Benjamin Harst in that 09 machine. This is his first ever start in the ASRC Oval Series this season in the late models, but 2 seasons ago when we ran the SK Modified and Tour Modified, Benjamin Harst actually was the champion. And in our last season, he was the runner-up for the championship. So we'll definitely have to keep an eye on that driver and see what he manages to do here tonight. Third place to Anthony Nadell in the number 9 machine. Fourth place to Timothy Messimer in the 33. Fifth place to 3-time series champion Brian Sabelski in the number 85 machine. 6th place to Eric Gahn in the number 51 for Dirtbag Racing. 7th place to Jason Mong in the number 70. 8th place to Nico Morelli in the 14 for Morelli Motorsports. 9th place to League Admin Johnny Bell in the number 27 Lernerville TV entry. 10th place to rookie driver here this season, Brandon Anderson in the number 2. 11th place to Koi Hesselou in the number 87, who is currently tied with Brian Zabelski for number of wins this season. And on the outside of him, in the 12th position, Dave Sierrick in the number 56 machine. Following him, it looks like Brad Ringer did not make the grid. So we will be having a 13 or a 12 car race here tonight. If that, it also looks like Koi Hasselu and Mr. Dave Sierrick also did not make the grid, so it looks like it will be a 10-car race, actually. David Sluiter, Benjamin Hars, Timothy Messimer, Anthony Nadell, Brian Sabelski, Eric Gahn, Nico Morelli, Jason Mong, Brandon Anderson, and Johnny Bell rounding out our 10-car field. So some of these drivers will be gaining positions from where we saw them on our qualifying sheet from other drivers not making the field. But that's still a solid 10 cars for this 3/4 of a mile long track. The track temperature, I believe, is roughly 120 degrees, so definitely going to be a pretty considerable amount of wear on these tires. And talking to the drivers down in the paddock, their 100% will be a fuel stop pretty much no matter what. So we are definitely going to have to keep an eye on these drivers' pit strategies because those could play a very big effect in the outcome of this race. But we are getting ready to send the pace car off. We're going into turn 3 now. And there we go, the pace car is off the field. Mr. David Sluiter is our race leader. And we are going green flag racing here at USA International Speedway. Drivers fanning out a bit quite on this restart. Everyone kind of feeling their way around the track, not immediately trying to dive their way down to the low line like we sometimes see. Benjamin Hurst in that 09 machine actually drifting way higher up through that corner than he probably intended to, sending him down a position very early on in this race. Further back in the field, pretty, dare I say, a little bit jumbled up here back in the mech. Nico Morelli and Eric Gahn managing to get the pass on the 70 of Jason Mong on the outside line, which is not something you really... Oh, and trouble. Nico Morelli and Jason Mong involved. The number 70 machine. That won't be a caution though, surprisingly. Okay, we are still green flag racing. That was a massive hit for Jason Mong there in that number 70 machine. Let's take a quick look back at that. Nico Morelli got up on to the outside of him, and
I'm sorry, Jason.
Jason Mong just came up into him a bit there. Not much the driver of that number 70 was able to do. That said, David Sluiter, still our race leader in the same position from where he qualified. Currently the closest battle on the speedway between Brian Sabelski and Timothy Messimer. Timothy having a little bit of a connection issue in that number 33 machine, so Brian's definitely going to have to be on his toes a little bit and be aware of what that 33 car is doing, because of course we're seeing the same thing these drivers are seeing. So that car blinking from connection errors is appearing on the speedway for everyone else, but thankfully it looks like things have stabilized for that number 33 machine. Currently still the closest battle on the speedway between that 85 and that 33. Everyone for the most part has single filed out now.
You have no idea what the hell happened there.
Pardon that, race fans. Little bit of a connection issue as our timing and scoring tries to get everything sorted out. There we go. David Sluiter is still our race leader. It did look for a second like he got moved down to the back, but that was just a little bit of a connection issue. Still now building up nearly a 2-second lead in that number 21 machine. David Sluiter on a heck of a run right now in that number 21. David, not a rookie to this series anymore. I believe this is his third start in the Oval Series, so he is doing a very impressive job for a relatively new driver. Of course, this isn't his first ever race, and of course, you know, everyone of all skill levels is welcome in the Oval Series, so it's not fair to assume that just because someone is a rookie driver does not mean they'll be competitive. David Sluiter actually was leading the race back at the Hickory Motor Speedway, I believe, when on the second to last lap he lost control of his car and ended up losing, I believe, even the entire podium from the incident. But he's definitely putting on a heck of a run here tonight to try and redeem things after what happened back a few races ago. Further back in the back, Brian Sabelski in the number 85 machine, making a move on the 33 of Timothy Messimer. Timothy going way up high through the corner there to let him by. I don't know if that was an intentional move to let him by or if he just overdrove the corner in that number 33 machine. But he is doing his best to make time back on the number 85 machine now, so I'm not quite sure what that was, but 13 laps are in the book now, so there's plenty of race left for these drivers to get situated and make back ground. Further back in the back, Nico Morelli in that number 14, still in the same position where he qualified, trying to catch up and eventually pass Johnny Bell in that 27 Lernerville TV entry. I'm definitely excited to... Oh, a little bit of trouble for Nico, bouncing off the wall there, but it does look like he's able to keep it going. Johnny Bell in that 27 machine has a bit of a gap to make up. He is almost 10 seconds behind the leader now, but that's almost kind of intentional with the driver of that 27 machine, especially on tracks like this where fuel mileage is very much a concern. Johnny tends to drive very conservatively, both on tire wear and on fuel consumption, to try and win the race on pit strategy. And there have been a few times where it has almost worked out for him. On our first race of the season, back at the Irwindale Speedway, Johnny attempted to go stopless throughout the entire race, despite everyone being pretty certain that you would need to pit for fuel, and even then he still tried it, and it almost worked out for him. Unfortunately, he came short on fuel with 6 laps to go out of 101, and to add insult to injury, he then got a speeding on pit road penalty. So what had potential to be one of the greatest pit strategy plays I've ever seen, unfortunately fell flat for the driver of the number 27 machine. So we will have to keep an eye on him and see if he tries any other daring strategies here tonight, because fuel mileage, definitely a concern. This is the longest track on the schedule. We've seen drivers have to pit for fuel on shorter tracks than this, so it is a guarantee that drivers will have to pit for fuel on this racetrack unless we just get an exorbitant amount of cautions, which I really don't think is possible. Of course, you never know. A race is never over until it's over, but I am really not holding my breath with the expectation for there to be enough cautions for drivers to not have to pit for fuel. Further up on the speedway, though, Timothy Messimer in that number 33 machine doing his best to hold off Eric Gahn in the 51. Eric getting very close to the back of that number 33 machine in his number 51 car. And it looks like with every lap he actually is gaining position here. Taking a bit of a higher line than Timothy through the corner did make him fall back a few hundredths of a second, but he's still going very strong early on in the race here. So we will have to see if he burns up his tires or not. He is trying to push the car pretty hard here in that number 51 machine, but I could be wrong. I'm not actually sure how much tire wear is a concern in the paddock. When I talked to the drivers before the race, no one was entirely sure what the tire wear was going to look like in the longer run of this event. And we saw back there, rookie driver Brandon Anderson now a lap down, letting die lap traffic in that number 2 machine. Currently, last time by, he was about 3 seconds off the pace, so definitely not how that number 2 machine wanted his debut race to go, but there's still plenty of time left in this race. He could have a caution come out and get the lucky dog position and be put back on the lead lap. So the race is not over for the number 2 machine of Brandon Anderson. Just behind him, Johnny Bell and Nico Morelli starting to catch up in the number 27 and 14 cars respectively. Brandon Anderson going up high to let them both by. Nico trying his best still to get the position back on Johnny. Nico currently about 3/10 of a second behind the number 27 car. Nico still in the same position where he qualified in the 8th position. He's been having a bit of a rough season in that number 14 machine, unfortunately. He's been having some fairly decent runs, but one way or another, he generally, unfortunately, ends up in an accident. So sometimes not his fault, sometimes they are. Not going to really comment on that. It looks like we have a transponder issue for Timothy Messimer, but he's still in the 5th position. He's just having some connection issues. We really should look into investing into some better transponders for some of these drivers, but I'm not the one who makes the financial decisions here, so it is what it is. We have our eyes, and that's all we really need to tell where the drivers are here tonight at the USA International Speedway. Timothy Messimer currently trying to hold off the 51 of Eric Gunn. Eric also in the position that he qualified in, looking to get into the top 5 in that number 51 machine. Eric finished 7th in the previous race back at the Oxford Plains Speedway, so he actually is improving from where he was last race. So we'll definitely have to keep an eye on that 51 machine and see if he can break his way into the top 5 here. Timothy got down a little bit onto the apron there, so that's going to help Eric Gunn out just a little bit. Down on the apron, especially at this track, is generally not where you want to be putting your car. It can get very slippery very quickly. So generally speaking, it's a good idea to not be putting your left tires down on the apron if you don't want to spin out. Currently the closest battle on the speedway, though, still between Nico Morelli in the 14 and Johnny Bell in the 27. Johnny currently up 2 positions from where he qualified. Nico scraping the wall then a little bit there. Still going strong in that number 14 machine. Johnny Bell now at about 2/3 of a second of a gap between himself and the 14 machine. Johnny probably not pushing his hardest that he could be right now. He knows that this is a long race, that we are now 1/3 of the way through, and eventually tires are going to become an issue, and he's probably not wanting to burn them all off trying to catch back up to the nearly 4-second deficit he has on the 51 of Eric Gunn. Speaking of Eric Gunn, though, he is making a bit of gains on Timothy Messimer. Not too much yet. It's about 2/3 of a second, so roughly the same gap that is currently between Johnny and Nico. But with, I want to say, 64 laps left in the books. That sounds about right. There's still plenty of times for drivers to make moves and for, dare I say, things could go very wrong here. As I've always been saying throughout these races, it is not over until it's over, and we've seen that tried and true several times throughout this series with late race cautions involving the leaders sometimes just completely changing the outcome of the race. You could lead every lap, but ultimately, if you're not the one crossing the checkered line back at the end of the race, then you're not the winner. So sometimes it feels like races are decided, especially when the leader has a 5.5 second gap like David Sluiter in that 21 machine has right now. But honestly, there's no way to tell until the race is over. David taking a very low line, pretty much hugging against the apron here. Managing to keep his tires off of it though, that could be very poor if he actually did get his tires down onto them, but he is running a very fast line here tonight in that number 21 machine. And of course it is open setup, so evidently Sluiter has done a lot of work on that number 21 machine to get as much speed as possible around this 3/4 of a mile speedway, and it's working out very well with him. We will just have to wait and see though if the tires on that number 21 machine can hold up with how well he's running this track, because generally speaking, of course this is not always the case, but there's a bit of a correlation between just how fast you're going and how much you're wearing down those tires, and it's a delicate balance to have both good tire wear management and be at a very competitive speed. So with 40 laps now in the books, 61 laps to go, we are definitely going to have to keep an eye on that number 21 machine and see what his pit strategy ends up looking like later on in the race. Speaking of some of our drivers here tonight, some of them are Twitch streaming. Brian Sabelski, currently in 4th place in that number 85 NT owned machine, streams all of his races on twitch.tv/Nihon Tiger, which you can see on the hood of his car there. He streams pretty much all of his iRacing races, as well as doing a pretty good bit of modded Minecraft on his channel, so if that sounds like something you're interested in, definitely be sure to go check out twitch.tv/Nihon Tiger. Along with that, our race leader, David Sluiter, also a Twitch streamer. He streams at twitch.tv/racingwithdave. So definitely be sure to go give the driver of the number 21 a look on twitch.tv and see his perspective of this race here at the USA International Speedway. Anderson going up high in that number 2 machine to let the leader by, now putting him 3 laps down here tonight. Anderson making his debut race in the late model series, and honestly I feel his pain. I was very much doing the same thing he is right now in my early races with the league, and really with most of the leagues that I personally competed in, but we're definitely going to have to root for Brandon, and just know that it does get better. Timothy Messimer, though, pitting in. I don't believe it's for damage. I do believe that he is going to be taking his fuel for the race. Of course, fuel is pretty much mandatory unless the rest of the race goes under caution, so we will have to see what this driver's fuel strategy is going to look like. He is going to go a lap down now from his pit in, so we will have to see how his pit time ends up being. It does not look like he is changing his tires. Oh, nope, there he goes. He's changing his left side, so that probably is 4 tires and fuel for the driver of the number 33 entry of Timothy Messimer. Our first driver down on pit lane, so we will have to see how it works out for him. David Sluiter in the number 21 coming up on lap traffic yet again. Nico Morelli in that 14 going to go high to let him by. Johnny Bell probably going to... Oh, trouble. David Sluiter into the wall a little bit there in that number 21. Sluiter is our race leader by nearly 7 seconds, so bouncing off the wall like that's not of too much consequence yet, but little mistakes like that can add up if they are repeated. Johnny Bell in the 27 machine, now letting him by as well, which now puts Nico and Johnny side by side. Nico down on the low line in that number 14 machine. He is going to make the pass on the 27 Lernerville TV entry. Johnny looks like he might have scraped the wall a little bit. Johnny now diving down to the low line, back behind the number 14 machine to see if he can't get a run on him and make it back into the 6th position. This track not necessarily long enough to draft in these late model stock cars. These long straightaways do a bit of a slide for the number 14 machine. He's probably going to have to forfeit the position to Johnny Bell here, and it looks like he does. That was a very big slide for the driver of that number 14. Driving for Justin Wilson, a tribute to an IndyCar and Champ Car and F1 driver who unfortunately passed away in a race back in 2014. Definitely great to see drivers driving with paint schemes that honor their favorite drivers. Looking back down on pit lane, Benjamin Harst now going to be the second driver in for his tires and fuel, at least fuel. Alright, he is at least taking right side tires in that 09 machine. Brian Sabelski also coming down pit lane for his stop. Benjamin Harst only a 15-second stop on pit lane, so it does look like Benjamin Harst in that 08 machine is going to be on a 2-tire strategy instead of 4 tires, which is actually kind of surprising to see. Generally speaking, in Oval Series, I do see a lot of 2-tire stops, but I believe just about all of the pit stops we've seen for tires in the ASRC Oval Series this season have been 4-tire stops. Brian Sabelski, even shorter of a pit time than Benjamin Harst, so it looks like Brian Sabelski in that number 85 machine also going to be on a 2-tire strategy. Our race leaders now in, though. Anthony Nadell and David Sluit are both in pit lane, which now puts Eric Gahn as the race leader. There are bonus points for leading laps here in the ASRC Oval Series, so I would not be surprised if some of the drivers that were further back in the field are going to be looking to use their pit strategy to collect the laps led bonus points here tonight. And Eric Gahn has confirmed he has completed a lap as the leader, so it does look like he is going to pull it off. Looking throughout the field, though, it looks like every driver that has pit so far has taken 2 tires, except for Timothy Messimer, who was our first driver to pit, and David Sluiter in the number 21, our former race leader, the only other driver to do a 4-tire stop so far. So we will have to see if his alternate strategy of taking the extra time on pit lane for additional tires will pay off for him here at the USA International Speedway. You only get 1 spare set of tires here in the ASRC Oval Series, so it does make sense to might as well use them if you have to pit in anyway. But a lot of drivers on 2-tire stops, so a 4-tire stop could make or break Sluiter's run here. After the pit cycles have gone through, Sluiter is now back in the 5th position with an 18-second gap to the leader, but only about half a second to the car in front of him, the number 9 of Anthony Nadell. Benjamin Harst also in the picture here. Benjamin also about half a second away from David Sluiter in the 21. Once all of the pit lane cycles happen, though, it does look like Anthony Nadell in the number 9 might actually end up being our new race leader, provided Sluiter does not make the pass on him. Eric Gahn, Johnny Bell, Nico Morelli are 3 drivers who have yet to pit in yet. Eric Gahn, currently our race leader in that number 51 BA Gaming Rules late model entry. Definitely good to get the bonus points under your belt for leading a lap. And I would not be surprised if Johnny Bell in that 27 is just waiting for Eric to pit so that he can get away with claiming some of the lap lead bonuses himself. Further back in the backfield, though, David Sluiter looking to set up the pass on Anthony Nadell. Anthony's going to go up high and let him have it. He is not looking to hold up a car on 4 tires when he's only on 2. You could probably see the speed differential between the 2 drivers, and he just said, nope, not doing it. You can have the position, David. That said, David Sluiter, Anthony Nadell, the 21-9, currently still the closest battle on the speedway. 64 laps in the book. We are now nearing being 2/3 of the way done with this race. Johnny Bell also starting to get a little bit of pressure from behind from Nico Morelli. Nico roughly 7/10 of a second behind that 27 machine. Nico could very well be vying for the same strategy that Johnny is, of waiting for the last 2 cars in front of him to pit to try and snag some extra points for leading laps. I say that Nico Morelli is going to pit in, though. Nico is going to forfeit the whole plan I thought he was going for. Now Eric Gahn and Johnny Bell are only 2 drivers that have not gone down pit lane yet. Eric Gahn, I would imagine, going to try and stretch his fuel to the very end here. Drivers in the paddock, along with not entirely being certain about tire wear here at the USA International Speedway, also not entirely sure about fuel usage, so I'd imagine that drivers are kind of playing things by ear here. Now 2/3 of the way done with the race, and Eric Gahn is going to pit in. Johnny Bell now officially having led a lap, and is now the last driver on the speedway to have not pit yet. So we will have to see how long Johnny is going to try and hold on out on the racetrack here in that number 27 machine. Like I said earlier, Johnny Bell is known to do some very risky and very unorthodox pit strategies, so I'm excited to see if that number 27 driver has anything hidden up of his sleeve for the rest of the field here tonight. David Sluiter in that 21 machine now in the 2nd position, so once Johnny pits in, Sluiter will be the new race leader in that number 21. David qualified on the pole here tonight and has led very close to every lap here in that number 21 machine, so we will have to see if Bell is going to give the lead back to him. Anthony Nadell and Benjamin Harst side by side. Harst, however... Oh no, that's Anthony Nadell and the 51 of Eric Gahn. Eric Gahn down a lap, so not a concern for the driver, that number 9 machine. And it does look like Johnny Bell is finally going to come into pit on lap 70, which now completes our pit cycle and puts David Sluiter in the number 21 back in the lead of this race. Just about 30 laps left in the books, so we're going to have to see if the 4 tires work out for Sluiter. Anthony Nadell, of course, on a 2-tire stop, so he's going to have a lot more tire wear to have to deal with than that number 21 machine. Sluiter pretty handily... Well, I was going to say pretty handily building a gap between himself and the number 9 machine of Nadell. Oh, and it sounds like a bit of trouble. Someone might have scraped the wall. Not quite sure what that was. It sounded like someone had a little bit of a problem. Might have been Nico Morelli in that number 14. Not quite sure what that was, but that definitely sounded like somebody's late model stock car getting a bit more damage done to it than they bargained for. Further back in the back, although they may be a lap down, Johnny Bell and Eric Gahn currently the closest battle on the speedway. These two drivers are battling for position in the 51 and 27 machines respectively. Johnny Bell making considerable gains on the number 51 machine through these corners. It does look like he is setting up a pass here as they go into 3. Sure enough, Eric Gahn's going to go up high. Johnny Bell going to get down to the inside of him, and it does look like Johnny Bell is going to execute the pass, putting him back in 6th place. That said, they are still side by side through these corners. There we go. Now Johnny Bell definitely accomplishing the pass, though, putting him in the 6th position, and he is also now the lucky dog should the caution come out in the next 25 laps. Next up, that would technically be in his sights, is the number 14 of Nico Morelli. Nico still on the lead lap. He's the last car on the lead lap, though. And right behind him, the 21 of David Sluiter. So Nico is definitely doing everything in his power to try and stay on the lead lap here tonight. But that number 21 machine definitely is gaining, and I would not be surprised if once Sluiter is close enough to make the pass that Morelli will move out of the way and let him by it. And you gotta try your best to stay on the lead lap. That is kind of important. But at the same time, everyone here races each other with respect, and generally lapped cars do their best not to hold up the leader. And sure enough, Nico is going to go high to let our race leader by. Nico now the next car a lap down, putting Brian Sabelski as the last car on the lead lap in that number 85 NTO machine. A bit further back in the field, Eric Gahn in the number 51 putting pressure on Timothy Messimer. These two cars battling for position, the 51 and the 33. Timothy still having a bit of a connection issue, so Eric Gahn's definitely going to have to be careful about how he makes this pass happen. Don't want to accidentally make contact with the car that you're attempting to pass when they have a little bit of a connection issue and you can't see them. That said, he is gaining just a little bit of time every lap. Now 0.2 of a second between these two drivers. He made a big gain on corner entry there. And that's what I'm talking about with the connection issues. Eric gonna go down low and attempt to pass Messimer in that 33. Messimer having a bit of a wiggle there, thankfully managing to save the car, but definitely a little bit of a wiggle through the corner. The rear end snapped out just a little bit on him. These two drivers side by side, though. Still side by side down the front stretch, 20 laps to go. Both drivers sliding it on corner entry. It does look like Eric Gahn. No, it looks like Messimer does have better run off the corners and better straight line speed than Eric Gahn does. So Eric might have backed out of the corner a little bit there because of the connection issues that Messimer's having. A little bit of trouble for that 17 of Brandon Anderson, though, scraping the wall just a little bit in that number 2 entry. You can see a bit of damage on the right front. He's just trying his best to stay out of the way of the rest of the race. Anderson currently 24 laps down after having to spend some time on pit lane for damages, and now just trying to turn some laps and keep from getting in the way of anyone else. Messimer is going to make the pass on Brandon Anderson. Eric Gahn passing him as well. These two drivers now back in contention with each other, though Eric Gahn is going to have a bit of ground he needs to make up in that number 51 machine. That gap he had that was nearly 0.2 of a second, now all the way back to 2/3 of a second. So Eric Gahn does have a bit of digging to do to try and get back to that number 33 machine. 16 laps to go here now. 16 laps for Eric to try and close this 2/3 of a second gap here. That said, it is going up a little bit. Now almost zero point 0.8 of a second between these two drivers, so Aragon is fading on speed a little bit here. These two drivers still the closest battle on the speedway here tonight. Now down to roughly 2/3 of a second again. Aragon gonna go way up high through the corner there and slide it a bit out of 4. That's going to hurt his time a bit, and now almost a second of difference between these two cars. Aragon definitely losing ground on that number 33 entry. 14 laps to go. David Sluiter kind of sailing. Oh, a big slide for the number 51 machine. He's definitely lost a lot of ground there. Had to slam on the brakes to try and recover the car. Coming behind him now, Brian Zawelski in the number 85, the last driver on the lead lap, with a 12-second gap between himself and our race leader, David Sluiter. 4 seconds between the car in front of him of Benjamin Harst in that 09 machine. So roughly, of our cars that are still on the lead lap, we have about a 4-second difference between each of them. 12 laps to go here now. I think a caution might just be the only thing that will get our top 4 drivers back into being competitive with one another. You know, I could be wrong. It's like I said, 11 laps to go. Anything could happen in those next 11 laps. So we will just have to wait and see and try and expect the unexpected, because let's be honest here, you never really know what's going to happen until it happens. Another scrape against the wall. I believe, I'm not quite sure who that was. It was not Brandon Anderson. I'm not quite sure who that was that had a bit of a big impact there, but everyone's still keeping their cars going. 10 to go now. David Sluiter, still our race leader, even after the pit cycles have gone through. Got a comfortable 5-second gap between himself and P2, so he doesn't have much to worry about at this rate. He's just on a bit of a Sunday drive here at the USA International Speedway. 8 laps to go now. Still the closest battle on the speedway being almost 4 seconds of gap, that being between Timothy Messimer and Eric Gahn. These two drivers have completely split apart at this rate. That very close battle now not being so close anymore. 7 to go, and pretty much everyone on this field is evenly spread apart. 5 seconds, 4 seconds, 4 seconds, 13 seconds. And then every other car is just about 3 seconds apart from one another, so everyone has managed to pull off to be almost equidistant from each other. 6 to go now. David Sluiter still with a very comfortable lead in that number 21 Moonspeed entry. As I said before, David Sluiter, twitch.tv/racingwithdave. Be sure to give our race leader some support at twitch.tv/racingwithdave. The big high five is up in the air now. 5 laps to go. We do have an overtime attempt would the caution come out in these next 5 laps, but with everyone being as spread apart as they are, I can't imagine that would happen. 4 cars left on the lead lap. 8 cars still left in the race. Brandon Anderson technically still in the race as well, but he's currently been in the pit lane for quite a while now and is 25 laps down, so I think Brandon Anderson might be calling it a race here at the USA International Speedway. 3 to go now. David Sluiter's gap now up to a 6.2 second gap now, and growing with every passing lap, so Sluiter definitely set that car up incredibly well, both for tire management and for just straight line speed. His best lap time, 22.1. 2 whole tenths of a second faster than the second fastest lap sent by Anthony Nadell, which was a 22.3. Followed then a 22.4 by Benjamin Harst, and then a 22.5 by Brian Sabelski. So there's a pretty considerable gap in speed between these drivers. White flag up in the air though. Just 4 more corners for David Sluiter to take his first win in the ASRC Oval Series. Halfway down the backstretch now into turn 3 through turn 4. David Sluiter is our 4th winner of the ASRC Oval Series here at the USA International Speedway. Behind him, Anthony Nadell, Benjamin Harst, Brian Sabelski in that number 85 machine. Those 4 cars being the last 4 cars on the lead lap here tonight. Well, give it up, race fans. Twitch.tv/racingwithdave. David Sluiter, our race winner here tonight in that number 21 machine, and he's gonna burn it down here in victory. That driver definitely happy to come back and claim the win after the incident he had back at the Hickory Motor Speedway. Let's see if we can dial up that number 21 machine and talk to him about his victory, now being the 4th unique driver to win this season. Trying to dial up our race winner now. Giving him a ring, not sure if he will answer or not. There he is. Hello there, David. You made it happen. You finally got the win, despite everything that we won't talk about that happened a few races ago. But here you are now in victory lane. How are you feeling?
Feels pretty good. Feels definitely a lot better than what happened at Hickory 2 weeks ago. So I'm very happy with it.
You had a very fast race car here tonight, that's for sure. Your fastest lap was over a tenth of a second faster than the next fastest lap, so you definitely were making this track work for you one way or another.
Yeah, I gotta thank Coy. He builds all the sets. He makes them go fast. I just I'm just able to drive them. So gotta thank him, and then everyone at Moonlight Speed. They also help with set building. So everyone makes it all happen.
Well, you put on a heck of a show here tonight, David. Is there anything else you would like to say here tonight?
Just thanks to my basically my teammate Anthony. Finished second, so we got a 1-2 finish. It's always good when you can run up front with a teammate.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming out, and I look forward to seeing you compete the rest of this season.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it, man. It should be a fun one.
Yeah. And speaking of teammates, our runner-up, Anthony Nadell, P2 yet again. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good about finishing second. I think Dave, he was significantly faster than me, so there wasn't a whole lot that I could do to get around him. I just wanted to stay ahead of everybody else and was able to do that. I know Ben made it a little bit close there. I'm not sure if he took tires on the pit stop or not, but he ended up coming out even with me coming out of the pits. And so he made it interesting there for a little bit, but I was able to get around him, and then we were kind of able to drive away. And I said I didn't really have anything for Dave in this race, but I'm happy to finish second.
Yeah, there's still 4 races left in the season, and I would not be surprised if you end up winning one of those. You've been putting up a very dominant performance every week. You've pretty much been in the podium just about every race since you joined the league, so I believe in you.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm a little bit disappointed to keep ending up second in all these races, but it could be a lot worse. Second's not a bad place to finish.
Yeah. Is there anyone you would like to thank for getting that number 9 machine in the podium?
I'd like to thank you guys to put the series on and for broadcasting and I've really enjoyed racing in this series. So I guess thanks to everybody who's responsible for putting on the series and making it so enjoyable.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming out. Anything else you would like to say before we kick you out?
Nope, that's it. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you. All right, now we will see if we can dial up our third place winner, Mr. Benjamin Hurst. I don't know how active he is in the Discord, so we will see if we can dial him up. All right, we have dialed up that number 09 entry. I don't know if he was even aware I was broadcasting, so we will have to see if he picks up. We have been on a pretty good streak lately of getting all 3 finishers to come out and have an interview. We will have to see if we're able to keep the streak going. I will, of course, give him just a few minutes to pick up. We will see if he answers. But in the meantime, since he is offline on Discord, how about we go take a quick look-see at our race results until he answers, should he answer. So you just heard from him, our race winner in that number 21 machine, leading almost every lap of this race, excluding the pit cycles, David Sluiter in the number 21. Second place, yet again, to Anthony Nadell in the number 9 machine, who is now finished on podium in every race he's been here, for a second place finish, a third place finish, and now another second place finish, and then another second place finish. So 3 second place finishes for that number 9 driver. Third place to Benjamin Hurst, our previous series champion back in 2021 season 1, which I believe was season 5 of the Oval Series. Fourth to Brian Sabelski in the number 85, 3-time Oval Series champion. Fifth place to Nico Morelli in the number 14, which I believe actually is Nico's best finish so far this season, so congratulations to him. Sixth place to Johnny Bell in the number 27 machine. Seventh place to Timothy Messimer in the number 33. Eighth to Eric Gahn in the number 51. Ninth to rookie driver Brandon Anderson. And then 10th to Jason Mong, who was involved in that early wreck that did not bring out the caution. And then Coy Hasselou, Dave Sierrick, and Brad Ringer, 3 drivers that showed up for practice but then withdrew from the race before the green flag flew. So I'm not sure if these drivers will actually be scored as attending the race or not. But that said, it does not look like Mr. Benjamin Hurst is going to be picking up for tonight. So that's about all I've got for y'all here at the USA International Speedway. Thank you all for coming out, and I will see all of y'all next week at the same time, Monday at 10 p.m. Eastern, for round 9 of the Oval Series at the Lanier National Raceway. So back to one of the shorter tracks on the schedule. We will have to see how these drivers manage to tackle it. And that's all from me, though. Thank you all for watching, race fans, and have a good evening.